Today, we're going to be talking about two storylines in the NBA that make my blood boil. And when I say make my blood boil, when I hear people talk about it on social media, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, it makes me so mad because sometimes I feel like when people say this, they're not watching the games. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to At the Buzzer Sports, where we talk all things basketball all the time. I'm your host, John Drummond, and today we're going to be talking about two basketball storylines that piss me off. And the first one we're going to be talking about, people saying Rudy Gobert is not a good defender. And this comes from NBA analysts, former players, former coaches, and it really pisses me off to a level because these guys have played the game. These guys have coached the game, and yet they still say Rudy Gobert is a bad defender, majority because of him not being able to stop Jokic. And this postseason has given a lot of Rudy Gobert haters a lot more ammo to use against him because we've seen some very disappointing highlights from Rudy Gobert, whether it's getting beat up by Nikola Jokic down low or having the game-winning three-pointer on him in Game 2 of the NBA Western Conference Finals against Luka Doncic in space. Also, Rudy Gobert has 4 Defensive Player of the Years, and guys like Bam Adebayo and Anthony Davis do not have one. And this obviously uproars the NBA slander or the slander around Rudy Gobert's name when people say he's a trash defender, he's god awful on defense, he shouldn't deserve a single Defensive Player of the Year, he's not a top 5 defensive player in the NBA. And it really makes me mad because a lot of people do not watch what makes Rudy Gobert so good. They only watch the parts where you're guarding a guy like Nikola Jokic or you're asking a big man to guard Luka Doncic in space. So I took the liberty of looking at what Nikola Jokic has done against these defenders who a lot of people say are better than Rudy Gobert, which is Anthony Davis, Bam Adebayo, and Victor Wembanyama. Against Anthony Davis in the 2023 Western Conference Finals, he averaged 28 points per game, 12 assists, 15 rebounds, shot 51% from the field, and 47% from three. Doesn't really look like Anthony Davis did much stopping to me. And in 2024, in the first round, Nikola Jokic averaged 28 points per game, 16 rebounds, 10 assists on 59% from the field, and 33% from three. Doesn't look like Anthony Davis did a lot of stopping to me. And when we talk about how Nikola Jokic basically outplayed Anthony Davis through every single quarter of every single game, we don't talk about it as much because he's not Rudy Gobert. He has more of an offensive game of Rudy Gobert. We're going to get to that later. Against Bam Adebayo in the 2024 NBA Finals, we all know Bam Adebayo is an incredibly versatile defender. He can switch on multiple positions on the floor, but he's not that great of a rim protector, and him being 6'9" does not help. So Nikola Jokic goes on to average 30 points per game, 14 rebounds per game, 7 assists, 58% from the field, and 42% from three. Doesn't look like he really stopped much either. And let's talk about Nikola Jokic versus Victor Wembanyama, the rookie phenom who people are already saying is a better defender than Rudy Gobert. In 4 games against Victor Wembanyama this season, Nikola Jokic put up 33.5 points, 11.5 rebounds, and 7 assists on 68% true shooting. For the people who do not know, the league average on true shooting is 56%. Not a single defender that I have mentioned on this list have held Nikola Jokic to under 59% when they are matched up against one another. And a lot of these guys, or a lot of these coaches of these guys, don't want to put them on Nikola Jokic one-on-one. We saw Darvin Ham try to put Rui Hachimura on Nikola Jokic one-on-one so Anthony Davis can be a better help defender. Victor Wembanyama cannot guard Nikola Jokic because there's such a weight difference. Bam Adebayo cannot guard Nikola Jokic because there's such an height difference. So name me a big man that can guard Nikola Jokic one-on-one in the NBA right now and affect him. And when we look at the stats, Nikola Jokic is held to 50 to 52% against Rudy Gobert, which is lower than Anthony Davis, Bam Adebayo, and Victor Wembanyama. So what are we talking about? What are we talking about? I also want to talk about the game that I think really started all this is when Tre Mann had 39 points on Rudy Gobert against the Utah Jazz in the second round of the Western Conference playoffs in 2021 where there was no Kawhi and it was just PG. If we go back and watch that game, because I went back and watched it, they were playing a 5-out offense. The Clippers were playing a 5-out offense. And we all know the Utah Jazz, without Rudy Gobert that season, had some awful perimeter defenders. There was going to be rim pressure every time Rudy Gobert was not there to sustain it. So bringing out Tre Mann to the three-point line and having Rudy Gobert have to worry about that takes away the rim protection and basically the best part of the defense for that Utah Jazz's team. Therefore, Tre Mann was able to get a lot of open shots because Rudy Gobert was more worried about defending the paint than having to guard Tre Mann in space. And another point before I get on to my little rant, my last point before I get on to my little rant, what big man is stopping Luka Doncic in space? One of the best isolation players in the league, one of the best isolation players we have ever seen. What big man is stopping Luka Doncic in space? I want you to find a clip. In an isolation, in that situation, not even in that situation, just in an isolation, I want to see a big man really stop Luka Doncic. Not just him missing the shots and getting separation and missing the shots. I want to see a real stop, a real great contest. Find me the clip, send it to me via @TheBuzzerSports on Instagram. And what I really want to talk about is a lot of guys who on defense are immaculate and don't really have that much of an offensive game do not translate when it comes to 10 to 15 years down the line. We love to talk about defensive players who have an offensive game that match up. I'm in the PCL Debate League on Player's Choice. If you guys do not know about that, please go check out Player's Choice. Phenomenal channel. I just wanted to say how we really underrate players who are great on defense and do not have much of an offensive game. Guys like Rudy Gobert, guys like Tony Allen, guys like Draymond Green, guys like, I said Tony Allen, guys like Andre Roberson. If you guys remember Andre Roberson, you guys know he was a lockdown perimeter defender. And I think NBA media does not give a fair chance to these type of players because when we look at the box score, it says 8 points. When we look at the box score, it says 7 points. But pure defense is not something you can just look at a box score and read. It's something you have to watch. It's something you have to watch with your eyes. It's something you have to watch with your eyes. And a lot of people in NBA media are not watching the games. They can't truly tell you how impactful Rudy Gobert is on the defensive side of the basketball. All they can tell you is, oh, well, he's getting cooked because the greatest post player in this era is cooking him when if you put him against Anthony Davis, he won't be doing the same. I just read you Anthony Davis will be doing the same thing. And it really upsets me because Rudy Gobert just came off having the best defensive playoff series he's had in his career against the Phoenix Suns. It was a lot of people who picked the Phoenix Suns in that series. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate them for that pick. But a lot of people were saying, yeah, Rudy Gobert is going to have a tough time in this series because of how the Suns are around the perimeter with guys like Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. When we talk about guys like Jamal Murray, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, guys outside of Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic, they went 32 for 85 against Rudy Gobert as being their primary defender and shot 37% from the field against Rudy Gobert in space. So on top of him being the best rim protector in the league, on top of him being the best help defender in the league, he was also very serviceable in space against some of these perimeter threats. That's not the part people are going to talk about, though. That's not the part people are going to talk about because you actually have to watch the games to see that. You actually have to dig deep into the stats and find that. You actually have to know what you're watching to understand that. So when people say, especially former players and former coaches, when they say that Rudy Gobert is a bad defender, it takes a chunk of credibility from you, in my opinion. When I saw Dwight Howard say that Rudy Gobert was not a good defender, I don't know exactly what he said, but I know he said that Rudy Gobert was not a good defender or not as good as people make him out to be. It takes a chunk of credibility from me, and I just don't understand where they're coming from with it. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that was my Rudy Gobert is a bad defender spiel. I just don't understand it. I don't understand where that hate can come from. A lot of people really take away Rudy Gobert's defense because he's such a bad offensive player. That I will not argue. Rudy Gobert is not an offensive player or a good offensive player whatsoever. But one thing we are not going to take away is him being a defensive player of the year. One thing we're not going to take away is him being an elite defender as well. The only reason I could really see people being so mad about Rudy Gobert being a 4-time defensive player of the year is because Anthony Davis and Bam Adebayo do not have one. When I think Anthony Davis should have won his defensive player of the year when Marcus Smart won his. I think that was the year. I also think 2020 could have been a year where Anthony Davis won defensive player of the year. But we're not going to talk about that. That's for another video. The next topic I'm going to talk about is when people say Jaylen Brown is a better player than Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown carried the Boston Celtics to an NBA championship. And this stems off of the finals performance. In this past year's finals, Jaylen Brown has won finals MVP, and he had better games than Jason Tatum. And a lot of people liked it. This conversation really started when Jaylen Brown had a better series than Jason Tatum in the 2022 NBA Finals against the Golden State Warriors. But once again, if you watch the game and you know what you're watching, you would know that the defense collapsed more on Jason Tatum every time he went downhill versus a Jaylen Brown. As we all know, Jaylen Brown is not the defender Jason Tatum is. Jaylen Brown is not the playmaker Jason Tatum is. Jaylen Brown is not the shooter that Jason Tatum was, at least. And it's an entirely different game plan based around Jason Tatum than it is Jaylen Brown. I 100% assure you that Jaylen Brown would not be able to handle the 3 to 4 defenders collapsing on him every time he goes downhill, play in and play out. Yeah, Jason Tatum turned that into a positive and getting the ball to guys like Jaylen Brown, Jrue Holiday, Derek White, Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis when he was playing, Peyton Pritchard when he was playing, Luke Cornett when he was not Luke Cornett, Sam Hauser when he was playing. It's a different level of scheme that Jason Tatum has to deal with on a night in and night out basis that Jaylen Brown does not have to deal with. And don't get me wrong, I love Jaylen Brown as a player. But he is not the player Jason Tatum is, and he does not fit to the level of playmaking, defense, offensive responsibility that Jason Tatum has night in and night out. Therefore, Jason Tatum is the better player. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are 2 basketball topics that really gets my gears going when I hear people talk about it, because it really makes me think, like, what are you watching? It really makes me think, what are you watching? Because when we watch, I don't think we're watching the same game. So when people say Rudy Gobert is a bad defender, you watch the clips of him going against Nikola Jokic, who's the best player in the league, and not being able to stop him. And then you go and watch Anthony Davis play against Nikola Jokic and be like, oh, Anthony Davis stopped him. That's what you're doing. And then we watch Jaylen Brown go up against nowhere near the type of coverage Jason Tatum has to go up against night in and night out. And you say Jaylen Brown maybe scored. He didn't even have more points per game than Jason Tatum in the NBA Finals. And Jason Tatum had a bad series. Scoring-wise, Jason Tatum did not have a good series. They still were par for par when Jason Tatum was playing probably his worst playoff run we have ever seen from him. So people watch that and be like, Jaylen Brown's the better defender, or Jaylen Brown's the better player. People watch the coverages that Jason Tatum has to see every play and say Jaylen Brown is the better player. I don't get that. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be something I have a problem with in NBA media, because 65 to 75% of the people are not really watching the games. There's no way you can watch an NBA game one time and fully grasp what you're watching. There's no way, in my opinion at least. I know when I watch the games, I watch them live, especially playoff games. I watch playoff games live as a fan, watching the ball. And then when I go back and watch it later, I watch what's going on around the court. Maybe I'll see a Jrue Holiday backdoor cut that opened up to an open Derek White three-point shot that I missed the last time. Maybe I'll notice the fact that the Dallas Mavericks ran the same play 3 to 4 times against the Minnesota Timberwolves in Game 2. There are things that I'm going to notice the second time I watch versus the first time I watch. That's why people don't understand what they're watching, if you get what I'm saying. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just went on a 13.5-minute rant. I'm not going to edit any of this video. I'm going to let this video go just like this, because I'm just getting some things off my brain, and I'm going to make a playlist out of this, actually. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to start calling them At the Buzzer Rants. And I'm just going to do an unedited, hard copy, raw, just me talking about basketball and things I think about, because I have an unhealthy obsession with this sport. Right now, it's almost 2 a.m. It's almost 2 a.m. and I'm not tired. And I have work in the morning. And I'm probably gonna be very tired. But yeah, so if you guys like this type of content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. If you made it all the way to this video, or if you made it all the way to this point in the video, make sure you comment, get some sleep, and I still won't get any sleep. I'm probably going to go watch 2010 Mavs versus Thunder. I'm out. Peace.